come and do our reading for us, and then Matt is going to speak to us.
Good morning. The reading is from the book of Matthew, chapter 9, verses 35 to 38. The workers are few. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." This is the word of our Lord. Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Joe, and good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here this morning. If I've not met you or not said hello to you, my name is Matt, and I am the vicar here at Bray Church. I just want to briefly just begin by telling you a bit of my story. I've not spoken a lot about my story before at church or when I'm preaching at all. Today I want to talk about the vision of Bray Church, but a lot of it is sort of wrapped up in my story and my journey of faith. I want to take you back to 2010, actually 2009, when I was a budding 19, 20-year-old. I grew up in church. I grew up in a Baptist church along with my parents and my brother and my sister. I was really actively involved in church, and I was really committed, and I loved going to church, and I loved growing up in church. But when I was about 19, I got really disillusioned with church. And I was done with church, and I pulled myself out of church due to lots of relationship breakdowns, relationship with a girlfriend breaking down, sort of certain leaders not quite giving me the support that I needed in that moment, and I felt angry at God, I felt angry at church, and I felt angry at myself as well. I'd let a lot of people down, and I'd got myself into such a place, and I was quite shameful of the way that I had acted over those last couple years or so. So I completely withdrew from church, and I went for everything that I thought would sort of fill that gap that church wasn't filling for me. I was going out, I was partying, I was doing all the stuff that 19, 20-year-olds apparently are supposed to do. And I did all of that. And in January 2010, I woke up from a pretty heavy night out, and I just woke up and I felt there has got to be more to life than this. And so I said, actually, I've got to get my life back in order because this is not working for me. This is not working. And so I'd heard about a new church plant. HTB in London had been planting churches for the last 20 years or so, but they had just recently planted into a church in Brighton, which is where I grew up and where I'm from. They sent a team down to Brighton to start a new church, and I thought, well, maybe that's the last opportunity I'll give God to show up in my life. And I remember walking through, I went to the evening service there, that cold January evening, and I remember just before I walked through those doors, and I remember carrying this shame, carrying this guilt, carrying this sort of like anger towards myself, towards God, towards church, and towards the people around me. And I remember just stopping before I walked through those doors. And I just remember praying this prayer. I said, God, this is your last chance. This is your last chance, because if this doesn't work out tonight, I will never come back to church again. And I really believed that, and I'd still believe that today. And I walked through, well, you know the spoiler, I'm standing in front of you this morning, but I walked through those doors, and as I walked in, I suddenly was overwhelmed with this sense of peace. I was suddenly overwhelmed with this sense that I had literally walked in to my home. I had come home, and I just felt this overwhelming sense of peace over my life, and I knew at that moment my life had completely changed forever. It was at that church I met Fiona, my wife. We got married at that church, and then we got involved in church planting because I knew that this church plant had made such a difference to me in helping me experience God's peace, God's forgiveness, God's love, and God's life. I knew that church had done it for me, so I just wanted, wherever it was possible, wherever I could, I wanted to help create churches like that could do it for other people like me. And so I committed to going forward for ordination to become a vicar in the Church of England. I never thought I would do that. My grandparents, who are non-conformist Welsh Christians, couldn't believe it either. And I committed to going forward for ordination. I became a vicar. I got ordained. I helped plant churches in Hastings. I went up to London to be involved in a church plant there. We then moved down to Portsmouth to help plant that church there. We were there for about 4 years. And then, actually, well, in all honesty, we thought we'd be in Portsmouth for like 15 years. And that was the plan that we believed. But God had a different plan for us. And due to circumstances working out in a certain way, the pandemic, lockdown, all of that sort of stuff, it wasn't possible for us to stay in Portsmouth. And this guy gave me a call. He's the guy who sort of organizes all these church plants within the HGB network. And he gave me a call and said, I want to send you down to Torbay, and I want you to have a look there and see if God's calling you to plant a church there. And I remember coming down, it was, July 2020, and I drove down 3.5 hours from Portsmouth. I left at 5 a.m. to get here early, and I met a few people, and I walked into this church building, and I stood here with everything actually, I think there was a food bank running here at the time, and there were all these food bank and shelving all around the church, and I just stood here. And again, that same sense of overwhelming peace. I was anxious about what was next in my life. And as I stood in this building, this sense of overwhelming peace and joy that I'd come home and that this is what God wanted me to do. So we did it. We moved here. And we brought with us a little team. We brought with us a few people. We hired some people. And we began this journey that is Bay Church. And Bay Church, we came with a very specific vision of what we wanted to see happen here. We have a vision as a church to see Jesus loved, the church alive, and society transformed in Torbay and beyond. The reason we have a vision, I think it's really important, because what a vision does is it paints a picture of what we want to see happen. A vision describes a reality that isn't the reality at the moment, but it's something that we hope for. It's something that we long to see. And what our vision means is it's our heart to see people come to know and experience a life-changing relationship with Jesus. We believe Jesus changes and saves lives. We want to see churches then alive and thriving, growing in depth and growing in number. And we want to see a more just and fair society. We want to play our part in seeing the lonely loved and the addicted set free. We're not so much interested in just building a big church, but we're interested in blessing the Bay. That's our vision, and that's our heart as a church. And our vision drives everything that we do. It's the framework that we hang all of our decisions on. If something's not going to help us achieve that vision, then we won't do it, because we are focused on the vision we feel God is calling us to do. That vision, then, is something that I hope that you want to be a part of, that you want to get involved. Hey, it's been so much fun. Already, the many of you who've been getting involved, playing your part in the life and vision of the church. Just think back to Easter Sunday. There's some photos going to be coming up as I speak, just of where we've gone to since Easter Sunday, when we opened these doors for the first time in a long time, and a new chapter in this building and a new chapter of life in this church began. Something new that we believe God was going to do amazing things in the Bay. Since launch, we've ran 3 Alpha courses, and we're doing another Alpha course at the moment. We launched Bay Tots and Bay Tea. We're seeing an impact widely in the community. Over Christmas, we sort of blessed the local community, delivering free, what were we doing actually? Free boxes of love with different things in there. It's been amazing. And you've been a part of it, and you've been playing your part. And I know there are some people here today, and you're just getting to know Bay Church. Well, this is what we're about. This is what we do. And I think really this is something to celebrate. We started with 10 people, and some of those were like 4 and 2-year-olds. Some of those 10 are the young toddlers. And it was my wife and I and Gareth and Athena. They felt called. Ruben and Vicky moved down from Portsmouth with us, 10 of us. started this thing, and to now where we are regularly hitting sort of nearly 200 people on a Sunday getting involved. That's including all the kids. Last week we had 52 children in the building, which is a phenomenal, amazing thing. It's also a problem because we need more volunteers. We need more room. We're beginning to think, how do we make space in this building? Because just looking out across the room now, we don't have enough chairs. We need to buy new chairs. It's exciting what's happening. It's encouraging. And the people that we're connecting with and the impact that we're hearing this church is having on people's lives is really encouraging and really exciting. But I believe that the best is still yet to come. Amen? The best is yet to come. So let's look at that vision. What I want to do this morning is, I know that there are a lot of people that you've started coming since January, and you haven't had an opportunity to hear me talk about the vision. For those of you who know the vision, it hasn't changed, but I want to remind you of it, because they say vision leaks, and so we need to keep talking about it and keep reminding ourselves what it is that we're about. So we want to see Jesus loved. Jesus loved. There are 135,000 people in the area of Torbay. 1% are engaged in church. And so we want to see people come to know and experience the love of God in their lives and be transformed by a relationship with Jesus. We want to see the 99% of people who are not engaged in church come to find home at church and come to find a lasting and life-changing relationship with Jesus. And so we believe that will look like a lot of people with no faith background at all, no experience of church coming to faith. But it will also be lots of people returning to faith. I did a quick audit the other day, and I basically went through all of your names, and I boxed you. I'm very sorry. I put you in a box. 25% of the current congregation of Bay Church hadn't been going to church for at least 2+ years. And you've found a home here at Bay Church. 25% of you feel that Bay Church is your home, and you hadn't been going to church for 2+ years. Some of you, it was like 10 years of not being at a church, and you have found home here. That's exciting. That's encouraging. One of the big ways that we want to see Jesus loved is by running Alpha. Alpha is the best opportunity to explore faith, questions of life, meaning, and purpose in a really pressure-free, non-judgmental environment. Can you welcome Steve up as we talk about Alpha? Steve, where is he? Yeah, he is. This is Steve. Steve and his family have been coming along since we were in the hall, actually, sort of early January last year. Actually, hey, happy birthday for coming along to Bay Church. Steve, you did Alpha, what was it, 15, 18... 14 years ago, you did Alpha. What was your life like before you did Alpha?
So, in one word, I guess broken. But yeah, I grew up in a broken family. My parents had split up. Neither of them went to church. Fortunately, I could play a bit of rugby. I got my first professional rugby contract when I was 17, but that quickly was whipped away because of a bad injury. And then I kind of filled my life with bad stuff. So yeah, when I arrived at Alpha, I was broken, yeah.
And then describe the difference Alpha made. What happened on Alpha and then your life since doing Alpha 14 years ago?
Yeah, so I ended up at Alpha because the woman who's now my wife basically said, if you want to keep dating me, you've got to come to Alpha. And I was kind of like, okay, thank you. So my only experience of kind of Christians at that point was Ned Flanders of The Simpsons. So it was a really kind of good opportunity to come and understand what on earth it was that she kind of went to on a Sunday morning, and to ask some, really important questions, but in a really easy atmosphere where I wasn't going to be judged for my background and what I'd been through and what my views on things were at that point. But my views were quickly changed by the views of other people around the table. So yeah, it was awesome.
Describe the difference Jesus has made in your life.
So I always find that one really hard to answer. Basically, when I look back to my life before I knew Jesus, I just don't recognize myself at all. And a lot of the people around me don't recognize me now compared to then. I guess I used to put my value in life in money, in nice cars, in stuff that we probably shouldn't talk about. And, you know, I now have refocused that. And I know that if it wasn't for Alpha and if it wasn't for Jesus being in my life, then I would either be in prison or I'd be dead. So it quite literally has saved my life.
Amazing. That deserves a round of applause at least. No, wait. So now Steve helps run our Alpha course here. We had week 1. You were leading a group. Actually, some of your group, I've noticed are here today, actually, in the sides there. Just describe what that first week was like, and just your heart for Alpha here at Bray Church.
Yeah, sure. So this is probably, I think I was counting, this is my 15th Alpha that I've done now. And I'm really passionate about it because, yeah, like I said, it saved my life. And if it can save other people's lives as well, then that kind of makes it all worthwhile. But Alpha at Bay is epic. It's wicked. We have amazing food. It's a great atmosphere and amazing people. And you kind of get a feel on week 1 for how a course is going to be. And we've got some pretty awesome people this time round. Really, you know, great people that are here this morning as well. So, it's a great atmosphere. And if you're sat here today and you're thinking, oh, I kind of feel like I'd like to do Alpha, but I'm not quite sure, give it a go. At least come for the food and see what the rest of it's like, because, I promise you won't regret it.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you so much. Alpha, and, well, pretty much everything that we do, the events we run, the services that we run, we want to create a pressure-free environment for people to explore faith. And I really mean it. I'd love for people to feel like as you walk into this building, you don't have to sort of sign up to everything on that first day before you can feel like you can belong to this family and this community that we're building. There is space to journey and to figure things out and to grow in your faith, because we're all at different stages in our journeys of faith. And what we really want to do is create a church, a family that encourages one another, encourages each other to grow whatever stage that we're at. That's Alpha. And Sundays, of course, are a big part of that as well, to see Jesus loved. Secondly, we want to see the church alive. The church alive, growing in depth and growing in number. I always remember this conversation I had. It was probably maybe a year ago now. We had these contractors in talking about heating. That's how long we've been talking about heating without any solutions. And we were round the back. There's this boiler room, and we were in this boiler room with this contractor. And he just said, "What's going on here then? Why are we talking about heating here?" I thought that this church was dead. I thought this church was dead, and I could see his point. To most people who probably walk past the church, they probably think the same thing. They probably see the overgrown grass. They probably see the weeds. They probably see the falling roof tiles. Don't worry, you are safe. They probably see, well, if they were in, they'd see the leaky building when it really rains hard. They probably look in and go, the church is dead. I've heard it say that an empty church is like the empty palace of a long-forgotten king. And people walk in, they say, well, the king is quite clearly dead. But at Bay Church, we firmly believe that the King is well and truly alive and is on the move. Jesus is alive, and Jesus does want to make a difference in your life. This is why I'm not just passionate about a growing church family and community, but I'm also passionate about church buildings being revitalized as a sign that God is on the move in the area that we live in. And so that's why I'm passionate about these sort of buildings not being demolished and turned into flats, which is happening all across the country. But I'm passionate about seeing these churches come back to life with people in them excited because Jesus is alive and working in their life. One of the particular passions that we have is to see this church grow in terms of young families, particularly young single-parent homes as well, and young families that can find hope and life. A lot of the 25% of 25% who came who hadn't been to church for two years plus, there's another 25% of you who have returned to the Bay and called Bay Church your home. Fascinating figures. People say we just nick people from other churches. It's not true. 25% of you have moved to the area, and a lot of you are families. A lot of you are young families, and because of how we're set up, because of what we're doing, you want to make your home here at Bay Church. And that's why we put a massive emphasis on our children's and our families' work, the events that we do, everything we want to gear towards making this a great, exciting place to be if you have a young family or if you've got young people. We want to see Jesus loved, and we want to see the church alive. And lastly, we want to see society transformed. When I first came to Torbay, I drove down Sandringham Road. Everyone know the road I'm talking about? And it sort of opens up and you can see the most incredible view ever. It's the most beautiful view of the bay that I've found. And in the midst of all that beauty, you and I know that there are some really heartbreaking things going on in the Bay. Statistics around social deprivation, child poverty, and so on. And we believe that the church should be at the forefront of being a part of the solution. We believe that the church should be making a big difference in that area. I'd love to welcome up Beth, who's going to talk about that specifically. Please welcome Beth. Beth is one of our trainee vicars, and it's lovely to have Beth on team.
Trainee vicar at the microphone, anything could happen. Yes, I have the absolute joy and privilege of being able to work with our social transformation department, and we have a right laugh. And I wanted to choose a story to share with you today. There are truckloads I could have chosen from, but I want to introduce you to who we're calling Sam and Joe today to just share with you a bit of their story. And Sam and Joe are local parents to several very beautiful children. They've lived here their whole lives, and so there's not much they don't know about the Bay, in my opinion. If it's something they don't know about, it's probably not worth knowing. And our journey with Sam and Joe began when Sam came along to Bay Tots, which is our toddler group, on a Wednesday morning. Got a bouncy castle, got brunch like you've never seen, and it's just a lovely opportunity for carers, parents, to come and encourage each other, to have a hot drink whilst the kids are entertained. And so it's here that we met Sam and her youngest. And she shared with the crew that she lives with anxiety. And sometimes it's a crippling anxiety. It makes day-to-day decisions or tasks that might seem simple to other people really difficult to live with. And so she said it was in a moment of bravery that she found herself at Bay Tots, and happily was very delighted in what she found. A warm welcome, friendly conversation. And she shared with us that this was the first time and place that she'd felt safe and confident in years. That moment of bravery led her into this room where she encountered peace. And Sam keeps coming back. She's a regular every week at Bay Tots, and she's shouting about us in the playground. She's telling everyone about Bay Tots. It's fantastic. And having found such safety and confidence there, she thought, you know what, I might give Bay Tea a go as well. And Bay Tea is our weekly after-school sort of fun club and hot dinner together. Something for everyone at Bay Tea. We've got crafts, we've got consoles, there's all sorts of things going on. And then we do also have a hot meal together. And so Sam decided she wanted to share this place of peace and safety that she'd found with her family. And so they all came along, all of them together. And it was over dinner that first time they came along that it came to light that this was the first time ever they had been out for dinner as a family. First time ever they'd been out for dinner as a family. And that is now a weekly feature of their week, being able to go out all together to share a hot meal, free of charge, but with all the fun you can think of. And that's a really moving thing for us as a crew to know that we've been able to be part of gifting that to Sam and her family. Just by way of rounding off, one last little bit to this story so far is that at Christmas we found ourselves in possession of the most glorious hamper of delicious Christmassy goodness, and we needed to rehome it pronto. So we sent a quick message to Sam, and moments later that hamper was journeying to their home. And the girls dropping it off were greeted with the smiliest faces you've ever seen. And shortly after, Sam posted on social media saying this: "Over the last few years, we have felt lost until we found the most amazing, kind, caring people in a little old church. Their kindness and generosity is unbelievable. And as a family, we would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for putting a smile back on our faces and joy into our life. And we know that it is the love of Jesus that is transforming the life of Sam and her family. And it is so, so exciting to be able to partner with whatever it is that God wants to do there.
Amazing. Thanks, Beth. Can we hear a round of applause for that? Deeply, deeply encouraging. My firm belief is that the church is not a museum for perfect people. The church is not a museum for perfect people, but the church is a hospital where you can find healing. It's a family where you can find belonging. It's in the passage that we read where Jesus said, it says that Jesus saw the crowds and he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. It's the compassion that Jesus has for us, for those that we also have, for those who are lost and broken, harassed and helpless. That is the same compassion that we want to extend to the people of Torbay, that to whoever needs it, for whatever your need, if it's financial, if it's mental, whatever it is, that you can find hope and healing in Jesus. And that's what we want to build by seeing society transformed as part of our vision. Jesus loved, the church alive, and society transformed. That's our heart, that's our vision. But this vision is only possible if we are all involved in it, if we're all playing our part to see it happen. I would love everyone who feels a part of Bay Church to be involved in that way, to play your part in making this vision become a reality. What I think that looks like is everyone being all in on the vision. This is what it looks like to be all in. Everyone involved, everyone invested, and everyone praying. And I'm sorry that there isn't an IN for pray. Well, there is. It's a weird church word called interceding. But we went with praying. Everyone involved. Everyone involved. Vision needs people. It's so easy to get involved in the life of the church. And as Peter's already mentioned, we break that down into 3 steps. Choose a Sunday service. We only have one at the moment, so that's an easy choice for you. Join a Bay group. Be part of a smaller community. We're not a church that has small groups that meet. Our small groups are Bay Church. That is the life of the church, where we grow deeper with each other and with our faith and our relationship with God. And then serve on a crew. Get involved. Make things happen. It's only possible. If you've come here and brought your kid in, that's only possible because people are giving up their Sunday morning for being here to be on the kids' crew and to welcome all the children in. Same with youth. Same with the home crew, worship, it's all part. Get involved. It's so much fun. Our crews are always a laugh. There's no burden. It's just a good fun, lots of fun together. Everyone involved. Vision needs people. Everyone invested. Vision costs money. It's easy to be invested. A lot of what we're doing is only possible because we have a budget, and we have a budget because of your generosity and the people who are giving faithfully to that. I'd love to see people get involved in that, because when you do that, when you invest your finances and your life in something bigger than yourself, and particularly if you invest and involve your life in someone like Jesus, you'll find that you'll live with a greater sense of peace, a deeper sense of joy, and a greater sense of purpose for your life. I'd love people to consider being invested in the life of the church as well. And everyone involved, everyone invested, and lastly, everyone praying. Vision above everything else needs God. It needs God. Without prayer and without God, we're just a social club, or we're a social enterprise. Prayer is what will turn hearts to God. It's what will make the difference in this area. Prayer is as essential to our vision as breath is to our lungs. It's so important. I'd love people to pray for the work that we're doing. In verse 38 that we read, it said, "Therefore pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." It says that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. So pray for it. And I believe that the only reason that I am here is because there are people, and I scan the room, and I know that there are people who've been praying for 15 plus years for this area. And I feel like, not to sound boastful here, but I feel like I'm the answer to your prayer. But only in the sense that I get to be involved, and a lot of you are also the answer to that prayer if you've moved into the area and got involved here. Praying that we would feel called to play our part in seeing something shift, seeing the narrative change over the people of Torbay. And I've been praying now as well. I feel like a resident of Torbay, a year and a half. That's going to be 15 plus, 20 years, hopefully. And I've been praying now, praying for people to want to get involved in the vision. I wonder whether some of you now feel called to step out, step up, step into what God is doing here in this place. And together, I do believe that we will see Jesus loved, the church alive, and society transformed in Torbay and beyond, all because of Jesus and in his name. Amen.